We are live. What is up? Susan, how are we
Woo!
today?
We're not bad, Liam. And you? You can get your
I'm
crown
doing
on?
good.
Some stuff? Yeah? You can start it off on the right note?
Oh, I should start out with a royal.
Right.
All right.
Let's.
So
What did you
we've got a
do?
lot.
Mm-hmm.
We've got more people that have signed up for our broadcast today than ever before. I think that deserves
Nice.
as attendees.
I'm going to take a tiny bit of credit
What's that?
because I'm going to take a tiny bit of credit, and you too, because you taught me how to invite people, a whole lot of people on one click on LinkedIn, and I did it today. So I don't know how many I invited, but I know that I was going boom, boom, and it was a whole lot of people. So maybe some of those are the ones who signed up.
A whole lot of people going
A
on.
whole lot of people.
Please send your questions and comments. We'll try to answer them. And we had a lot of comments over the past few emissions, the past
Mm-hmm.
few broadcasts. So we might just put them up on the screen, like to one side, and let people just
Nice.
talk about what they want to talk about. All right, looks like we're getting ready to rock and roll. T
Oh, I
minus.
mean, it's sad that we have to have that quote, but what a beautiful quote. We have to love each other. No, other way around. We have to love our children more than we hate each other. I mean, it's like a sad commentary on the times, but I do agree with it.
Yeah, we have to love our children.
More than we hate each other. In other words, the grown-ups are so divided, Liam, as you know. We got to put all that aside. We got to work for a common good, which is the kids. The kids are in trouble. They're a mess. And you and I and everybody else, if we work together, we have the capability to make at least some of it a whole lot better. So we need to be doing that, in my opinion.
And and there used to be songs about that, like, got to love one another right now, right now.
Yes.
Remember? We
Yes,
grew up to
I
that
do.
type
So
of
that
stuff.
one, I'm not coming, but I'm sure we can come up with more that we can sing. There's what's the one? We
What the
got hope
world
needs
needs
now
now
is
is
love,
love,
sweet
sweet
love.
love.
That's the
That's
only
the only thing.
thing that there's just too little
Too
love.
little love.
What
See?
the world? We need
World
to make it live,
needs.
Liam. You and me
That's,
singing.
yeah, come on.
That's right.
So that's where we need to get to. See, everything old is new again. They're saying we need to
Right?
love our
That's truth.
children more. And we just used to say the world needs love, sweet love, right? Back in the day.
It needs love, sweet love. And then what was the one? Teach your children well.
Been
You know what I'm
well,
doing, right?
right.
Yep. I
The,
don't have the tune right, but
exactly. Crosby,
yep.
Stills, Nash, and Young.
Yeah, you
Oops.
got it. Right.
Well, they flag us with their opening music, so we're going to keep the opening music low and talk a little bit.
I know it. I know it. So what's our news on Fauci? I just saw his face flash up there. I feel like it was a while ago. Somebody said it was go time, and if we passed a certain date, we had missed our window to.
Yeah, I know
Well,
exactly what you're talking about. Let's see what let's see what
yeah.
they're up to.
Good food is one of the best weapons we have. And it's, in the fight against chronic disease. But here's the thing. It's not the only weapon. There's a lot more in the MAHA toolbox. The sun, fresh air, clean water, healthy soil. These are free medicine, gifts from the natural world, and we've been ignoring them for far too long. Think about sunlight for a second. It floods your skin and basically switches on your body's own pharmacy. Just a few minutes a day kicks off vitamin D production. And that strengthens your bones, sharpens your immune system, and calms inflammation down. Now, a huge part of that natural world is the animals, the ones we call friends, pets, family. And that's exactly why most Americans want to see an end to the cruel, unscientific experiments we run on them. Ending animal testing is too long overdue. For decades, the people fighting to protect dogs, cats, and primates got nothing but a cold shoulder from Washington. That's changing. Under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, animal testing is finally coming to a permanent end. And this isn't some partisan fight. Republicans, Democrats, independents, nearly everyone is on board. Just this week, Secretary Kennedy and USDA Secretary Rollins announced that the last 475 beagles at Rigland Farms in Wisconsin had been handed over to no-kill rescues to be adopted. That's the end of the road for that facility's dog breeding operation. It comes after more than 1,500 dogs were already rescued, and the farms promised to keep phasing out breeding completely by the middle of this year. And back in January, under Administrator Lee Zeldin, the EPA recommended and recommitted to eliminating mammalian animal testing and leaning into non-animal methods instead. This is MAHA Action's promise. Promises made, promises kept. This is how you finally break a cycle of extreme cruelty. And, this is a cycle started by Anthony Fauci and his people who failed their way to the top and kept this going for decades. We're also going to hear about Secretary Kennedy's work to change the way we treat addiction. And let's be honest, addiction touches tens of millions of Americans. Almost everyone listening knows at least one person who's been through it or is going through it right now. For years, the fight against addiction has come up short because once again, the old playbook just hasn't worked, and it doesn't work. But that's changing now. We're putting the humanity back into how we treat addiction. And I'm confident every one of us is going to see the difference, and in a big way. Whether it's how we treat our animals, our neighbors, or our family members, this is what MAHA is really about. Bringing back gold standard science, addressing real problems in the real world with real solutions. This administration is willing to go back and re-examine all of it, the toxic harms, the junk science of the past, and actually find better, safer, more humane ways forward by tapping back into the healing power sitting right here in the natural world all around us. Today, you'll hear from an incredible group of doctors, scientists, authors, and leaders of all kinds, all of them fighting in their own way to make this country healthier. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin will talk about protecting human health and the environment, making sure that Americans have clean air, clean water, and a safer future. Admiral Brian Christine, Assistant Secretary of Health at HHS, is here to talk about the brand new Get Active plan and why physical activity matters so much in preventing chronic disease. Chris Carroll, the lead on mental health and substance use at HHS, will cover today's historic addiction treatment announcement. Certified nutritionist and best-selling author Liana Werner-Gray will get into how the ingredients in her personal care products affect our health down the road and why what you put on your skin really does matter. Radiologist Dr. Rob Brown will talk about his upcoming book, Unplugged, which looks at the health and environmental impacts of electromagnetic radiation and wireless tech. Behavioral neuroscientist William Supple will discuss his new book, The Sunlight Solution, and the growing pile of evidence backing up the health benefits of getting more sun. And then Dr. Daniel Pompa will walk us through the hazards hiding in our indoor spaces and the practical steps you can take to cut down your exposure and stay safe. Then Dr. Eric Berg will share some of the insights from his upcoming book, Change Your Environment, and how modern environmental factors feed chronic disease and what we can do to stop it. And Gary Brecka will shed some light on just how cruel and unscientific animal testing really is. But first up, we have the man overseeing health coverage for more than 160 Americans, the administrator of CMS, Dr. Mehmet Oz. He's been working incredibly hard to shift the whole focus from treatment to prevention, from drugs to nutrition, and to make being healthy in America easier and more
Let's give
affordable.
it up for
Common
Dr.
sense
Oz.
and logic over ideology and passion.
Dr. Oz in
Dr.
the
Oz,
house.
thank you for everything you're doing, and welcome.
Here we are. Perfect. Wow, I got the link to work and everything. How are you, Tony?
Good, how you doing?
We had a good time on Monday evening talking to the group that assembled at the Ned in Washington. And I wanted to highlight a few realities that came out of that discussion. And I wanted to start off by remarking that much of my life, and I think this is true of many of those who joined Secretary Kennedy early on, has been defined by fighting the battles that consume many of the folks on this call. And this is a reality that we've known for years was a problem, and no one seemed to be able to have the political impetus to deal with the crisis until Secretary Kennedy, then candidate Kennedy, put this on the radar and then was able to unify with President Trump and has driven success after success after success. Much of the criticism that you hear, especially in the lay media, is designed to divide a movement. Now, I'm going to tell a short story that Secretary Kennedy shared with me once. He was talking to the founder of Greenpeace. They were off at some exotic location. And along the way, he asked him, what's it like to lead all these folks? And he said, it's like taking 1.1 million anarchists and getting them to unify behind a cause. It's hard because people have very strong feelings about this area. No one controls it. That's a good, by the way, thing. It's not a flaw. It's a feature of this movement that everyone is out there trying to do their best to make a difference. We all do it in our own ways because every mother has their own best practices. Everyone's learned, I hope by now, that you don't criticize a mom who's doing her best to raise a child because there are lots of variables that fit into that. But the rumor mill that continues to arise around the MAHA movement, and particularly around the importance of Secretary Kennedy to this process, is always shocking to me. Because if you actually understand his history, and the history of those around him, you'll appreciate this is not a marriage of convenience. I met Secretary Kennedy years ago when he was leading the Waterkeeper Alliance. And in fact, he forced me to ski down a typical Kennedy fashion, speed down a hill faster than I should have been going, gave me a silver helmet like it would make a difference as I desperately tried to claw my way down the terrain. But I became friendly with him really after he came on my show to talk about concerns on thimerosal and vaccines. That was a show which at the time I was aggressively criticized for, because why was I giving a platform to somebody who's clearly lost their way? And yet I kept thinking, well, my goodness, the first line of the book is, I believe that vaccines have a role. The last line of the book says the same thing, that he's not anti-vax. And in between those opening and closing salvos and embracing the fact that he's interested and wants to pursue more knowledge around vaccines, there were some real painful data that we ought to be acknowledging around potential problems. But to understand why that resonated with me, I'd like to go back a second, because part of the issue is I became a heart surgeon and trained my tail off to become capable of doing some pretty aggressive things with a bandsaw and a scalpel and a needle holder, was that much of what I was doing could have been avoided if I could have just talked to the patients before they came to my office. Give me a 2 month, 3 months head start. I could have kept a lot of those folks off the OR table. And my wife, Lisa, who's been a big advocate of the MAHA movement, and I'm quite confident Secretary Kennedy and Cheryl like her more than me, for good reason. Because she's so clearly aligned with some of these issues, kept hammering me saying, get out of the ivory tower of Columbia, go out and tell people what the issues are, because if they hear it, they're not getting the message because you're not giving it to them. So go out and talk to them about it. And so we started speaking about it in different ways. I started doing more media. I was in New York City, started doing television programs, the Oprah show, obviously, importantly, launched my own TV show because I was in the change business. I wanted to make sure that things that I was going to do in my life resulted in change that would improve the state of my fellow men. All of you are probably on this call for that same reason. We just do it in different ways. And when we're doing it, we're fairly aggressive in wanting to do it the way we think makes sense. And I think that's a big message for all of us to keep in mind. So as this all went down, I'm going to tell you two short stories that hand the ball off, because I don't think these are stories that have been heard by a lot of people. When I started the show, we're facing a unfortunate conundrum, which is that I'm assuming you can all see me because I've lost the view of myself. I see Gary's handsome face there, but am I right, Tony? I'm good to go? Good. Is that true or not true? Oh, good. All right, making sure. So a couple years into the show, we had seen some data that there was arsenic in apple juice. Now, why would you put arsenic in apple juice? You don't do it on purpose. You do it because by mistake, the apples have arsenic on them as something you put on them to protect them from varmints. And so the arsenic, when you squeeze the apples, gets into the apple juice. So in America, we got rid of the arsenic in apples by taking the arsenic out of the material that was being used. And amazingly, that wasn't being done in other countries. So when the business shifted to China, the Chinese used arsenic because it's cheap. We imported Chinese apples, squeezed them, made apple juice, and gave it to our kids. That's what the big consumer of apple juice are kids. We fought this battle and eventually went back and forth with the US government, who claimed it wasn't true. Now we actually have standards that prevent the other countries from putting arsenic as a topical material on apples, and when they spray them, and then importing that juice into our country. Those kinds of things really bothered me. I can go on and on as many other examples, and I highlighted a bunch on Monday, but for this audience, I want to hammer home the fact that these issues, glyphosate, additives to glyphosate, other pesticides, other toxins in the environment, they've been around for a long time. We can't fix them by just all of a sudden turning off the spigot. It's first of all, you can't do it because it's extremely disruptive, but you have to give government time to warn consumers and the providers of this country, in this case, farmers, time to be able to adjust their systems. We have been fighting these battles for years and years and years. The changes that we all want to have made should have happened more than 15 years ago. But at least we're here now, fighting every day. Secretary Kennedy courageously leading the battle to make sure these changes happen while we're here, before fear that it won't happen when we're gone. But along the way, there are going to be skirmishes where once in a while, as a wise commander, you take a little retreat, you can march forward again. We have the support of the White House on this. So does the president is behind Bobby every step of the way. And we will keep pushing hard to get the results that you all demand and desire for appropriate reason. But in the meantime, do not let naysayers from the sidelines yelling in from the hinterlands divide this movement, which is too important, too critical for the future of our nation. God bless you all.
Oh, yeah, thanks so much. And it's
there seems to be trouble in paradise. There's something that we're missing. There seems to be something happening.
Say more, Liam, about trouble in paradise, because I read something and I have a question.
Okay. What's your question?
Well, I read something, but I hesitate to spread rumors. But somebody was saying that they thought that Robert Kennedy would be moving along, that he wouldn't be in his position very long, that he would be leaving for something else. Have you heard that rumor?
I have not heard that rumor. So that's
okay. I'm hoping it's just a rumor. I certainly don't want to spread falsehoods. And I am delighted with what he's managed to accomplish. So I would love to see him stay where he is, because I can't imagine anybody else accomplishing everything that he has. It's just unbelievable. Like, I honestly never thought I would see something like this in my lifetime. What are your thoughts?
I love the guy because he can bench more than I can. So I'm like, oh, yeah, get me in a competitive state. Yeah, so ever since I saw him bench like what he was benching, I tried it. I was like, oh my God, I haven't done this in 10 years.
So you need to up your game, Liam, because as we know, a healthy aging, there is no better anti-aging medicine than exercise. So it's exercise routine.
So yeah, now I have actually met and surpassed his, I saw him lifting, I think, for like 100 and something pounds, 35 plus 45, whatever that is.
Okay.
And so now I was able to go 45, and 45, which is 35, yeah. So
upping your game as only.
Upping my game.
Yeah.
Right.
I also really liked what Dr. Oz said about not shaming moms, because it really is true. I know when I had my daughter, boy, the breastfeeding police are out there. And I think that, like, sure, breastfeeding's great. I'm all about it if it offers immunity and all types of health benefits for the baby. But at the end of the day, feeding your baby and bonding with your baby is what counts. And I hate to see the women who, for whatever reason, can't or don't breastfeed be made to feel lesser than. So I'm all about do it if you can, but if you can't, you got up in the middle of the night and you fed that baby a bottle, go you. That's terrific.
Right. Exactly. All right, let's get Dr. Berg in the house to see what's up.
Yes, Dr. Berg.
Everyone. So I started expanding more and more tools in my tool box to be able to figure out why do some people get results and yet other people don't. And it really came obvious to me that there are many different environments that everyone lives in that go beyond just our diet, that go beyond just sitting behind a computer and kind of taking breaks. So I'm going to share a couple little things that kind of led me to this book. I live on a farm. There's two neighbors that I have, Dale and Daryl. And these guys are from the South. Their diet is composed of Twinkies, Coke, ultra-processed foods. And in fact, I've never seen them eat actually real food. Tobacco, chewing tobacco, smoke cigarettes. They should be dead by now, but they don't seem to have any problems. I'm like, what is going on? What are they doing? Well, they're outside all day in the sun, which gives you nitric oxide, vitamin D. Half the sun's rays are infrared. That's a therapy right there. And if you look at just comparing our environment to exposure of sun now versus in the past, I mean, most people, if they're lucky, they get 30 minutes to an hour of sun a day. Whereas even prisoners are mandatory. You have to get 2 hours of outside exposure, but Americans get a lot less than that. So the sun is very, very therapeutic. Also, they're doing physical work outside in a very unsterile environment in the dirt. So that has a huge impact over our health. Just this other dynamic of being outside and doing movement. Most people sit behind their desk and then they might go to the gym and get on the treadmill. So another ancestral mismatch, if we call that, is motion and movement. So we have sun, motion, and then we also have your social connections with people. I had a relative come up to me and she's trying to get rid of terrible acne. And of course, I go right to nutrition, food, because I know I've seen great results with that. It didn't do anything. And then I find out one day she comes over and I'm like, what happened to you? Your face is all cleared up. It looks great. She goes, oh, I met some new friends and I'm hanging out with them on a daily basis and we're up into the wee hours of the morning laughing. And every time I do that, my skin clears up. And I'm like, wow. So social connection is another environment that a lot of people are neglecting. So we have all these different environments, and this is what kind of prompted me to write this book. There's 9 different environments to start to implement these environments, because you can use willpower and keep saying no to our very addictive environments. But if you change your environment to make it the good habits like the default and the bad habits a lot of friction, then you're not dependent on constantly using discipline and willpower 24/7. So it's a really workable system that I put together, and the book should be done in about 6 weeks. But unfortunately, all of these things are upstream. They're root causes that eventually turn into a downstream symptom, which then people get diagnosed thinking that, oh, I just developed diabetes. No, you didn't. It's been brewing in the oven for 20 years. And then they're given a prescription. They're not given a new environment, unfortunately. So this is what we're trying to get the word out, and also realizing that there are multiple environments in every person's life that you need to start looking at. And it goes way beyond just that one thing that you might think that actually is going to help you. So anyway, thanks, Tony.
Oh, right.
Great. And it's important
So
to
Liam,
recognize.
Let me mute.
Yeah, I loved what he just said, because he is so right. Like the whole idea, when people talk about the sun and they only focus on vitamin D, it makes me a little bit crazy, because the nitric oxide is important. I have no idea what it is, but I know that boosting our production of it is a good thing. And mitochondrial activation is huge. So when the sunlight hits your skin, or when any infrared rays, whether it's indoors in an infrared sauna or outdoors sitting under the sun, if your skin is exposed, it's going to activate the mitochondria, which is good for everybody's health, everybody's physical energy level, but also brain health. So when we talk anxiety and depression, anything that activates the mitochondria is going to be beneficial because the brain is really dense in mitochondria. So whether it is taking supplements that boost mitochondrial function or making sure that you get enough sunlight exposure slash red light exposure, can't talk, sorry, or infrared exposure, it's going to help the situation. So I was really glad to hear him say that.
And mitochondria, for people like me who aren't this,
Yeah.
I mean, just it seems like mitochondria is kind of like the brain center or the
Well,
data center of the
all I
cell.
really remember, Liam, from seventh grade science is that the mitochondria are your cells' powerhouses. So if they are not happy, the cells are not going to be happy and you are not going to be happy. So I believe, and I am not the most sciencey person, but I'm pretty sure that mitochondria are present in every organ of the body. But I know that it's vital to produce energy. And when I think about how many adults, and sadly children too these days, are walking around feeling exhausted all the time, no matter how much sleep they've had, the answer isn't always just get more sleep. Although for many sleep deprived people, that is a huge component. The answer is also, what are the things that are stealing your energy, whether it's radiation exposure, whether it's toxins, or whether it's that your mitochondrial function isn't where it needs to be because of whatever things are assaulting them, including lack of sunlight.
Absolutely. All right. Looks like Russell Brand's sporting some expensive
All right, here
glasses.
comes comedy hour.
And playing games. But, this is a battle. It's a battle for the soul of everybody on the planet. And you're part of that war. You're one of the warriors bringing us back. And I'm grateful for that. And welcome.
Tony Lyons, thank you for your vehement encouragement and kindness and boldness and passion there. And thank you for bringing us speakers like Dr. Eric Berg. He's such a handsome fella. Anything he recommends, I'll do it. There's no question about it. He's been personally very kind to me as well. I've met some lovely people through your, I know it's not your movement. Any movement worthy of the name is just involves all of its constituent parts and requires all of us to participate in whatever way we can with the same aim: freedom and grace. He, though, Dr. Eric Berg, when you introduced me to him, he was extremely helpful in help with my son. My son had dental challenges related to his DiGeorge syndrome, gastrointestinal challenges. Dr. Eric Berg, he stepped up and helped us and connected us to good people. And now I here above the sound of Jake loudly crunching nuts in my peripheral vision that probably aren't even MAHA, they're probably even, I'd say, deep fried in seed oils from the look of them. He there, that Eric Berg, heroic individual, I've got to tell you. I mean, if heroic means the willingness to sacrifice yourself for a higher cause, then I suppose, then none are more qualified than you. And the figure around whom much of this centers, the romantic, mysterious, and brilliant Robert Kennedy. And today I have learned, and I'm sure you have been discussing, the announcement and the intention of dedicating $700 million to treatment for recovery and addiction and homelessness. I found the category of homeless, mental illness, and addiction, those categories are almost interchangeable and can be collapsed into one thing. I've not really ever spoken to many homeless people that aren't drug addicts. I've not spoken to many drug addicts that aren't mentally ill. And I've not spoken to many drug addicts that, if they continue, don't ultimately, eventually, and inevitably end up homeless. Addiction is an attempt to medicate pain, a pain that can only be assuaged through spiritual means using material, and specifically in this instance, chemical remedies. The reason that addicts grope so hopelessly for material solutions to a spiritual problem is because we live in a world that doesn't inform us that spiritual solutions are available at all. In fact, encourages us, first of all, into the ridiculous illusion that we are independent selves here to just compete for resources, to use one another as commodity, to see all relationships as in one way or another commercial. And there's no question that I lived a good portion of my life in precisely that mindset. When I was, I hesitate to say Hollywood star, even though there's no question I was extraordinarily sexy. While I was in Hollywood, gooning about, looming about, hosting award shows and being in movies and being a twerp. I didn't really know or understand, even though I could have done, because the 12-step process instructs us of this. The problem was self. The problem was I was worshipping myself. I was engaged in false idolatry. We have two very simple options. One is to be in the natural flow of God, in the conscious presence of our Creator. This is available and accessible to all of us always, except unless we voluntarily, generally, even if unconsciously, forgive the paradox, enter into sin, enter into unconscious alliance with the accuser, the doubter, the fallen one. Most of us are aware of a voice in our head that tells us we're not good enough, that you're never going to amount to anything, that you're a disappointment to your family, to your friends, you're not a good enough parent, you're not a good enough son, you're not a good enough friend, you're not a good enough writer, you're not a good enough activist. That voice is synonymous, I'm sure, sometimes with truth, but mostly it's the tune and chime of the fallen one, the enemy, the closed off consciousness that wants us all separate and competing, locked in unending conflict. The voice of God recognizes that there's a unitary and unitive force that flows into all of us, that we are participants in his creation here in the present moment, that by the acceptance of his simple grace, that we can be like he was, saviors of the world. And how will we know that we're participating in such a thing? We'll suddenly become very invested in and interested in subjects that might previously have not seemed very important at all, like truth, like caring for vulnerable, poor people. You know, you can't have, I have a trial in October, and it fascinates me that my book is being censored. And in a way, I've got to be honest with you, it flatters me a little bit. It flatters me a little bit that people would bother to censor it. I quite like it. I'm glad that people would take the time to censor me and control me. However, you can't have a justice system without justice. And in my country, the United Kingdom, here are some principles of the judiciary. Innocent until proven guilty. And to convict someone of a crime, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that they did it. If these things are true, then I'm participating in a fair and just system, and I will be acquitted, and I'll be in a brilliant position to atone for the things that I've done in my life that are definitely wrong, but not criminal. And I will be able to continue to participate meaningfully in the ongoing process of trying to help myself and others to participate in us helping one another to live as God would have us live. Which is telling the truth, loving one another, being kind, expressing the grace and forgiveness that we've been freely given ourselves. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for this entire experience. I'm grateful for you, Tony, being so sweet, particularly after I was supposed to come to DC, got as far as the aeroplane itself before, I would say, in an expression of God's will, the aeroplane itself didn't work. So I was simply unable to get to DC. There was a button jammed on the radio, is specifically what was wrong with the aeroplane. And apparently radios are quite important in aviation. Otherwise, people would just be flying about up there like Howard Hawks.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, looks like Russell Brand froze. We've got a comment from Anna.
Anisha, maybe?
Anisha.
I'm going to say Anisha, and she's from Bangladesh. Hi, Anisha. And tell us if we're saying, can you spell your name phonetically if we're saying it wrong? Because we're not from Bangladesh. But I'm so excited that somebody from so far away tuned in.
Yeah, and it's got to be like 2:30 in the morning.
Right. What are you doing up? And how on earth did you find us? And tell me why a meeting in the United States about health stuff and government stuff is of interest to someone in Bangladesh. So many questions.
Yes, and also the MAHA is a very Russell Brand just had a book that says how to become a Christian in 7 days, and
right.
I don't know what the religious tapestry of Bangladesh is, so it'd be interesting to hear how the Bangladesh views this sort of movement, MAHA movement, which has sort of a foundation.
Yeah, I think if I'm not
Lots of-
wrong, it could be Hindu, it could be Punjabi, it could be, or Punjab, I guess, or Sikh. I mean, there's a lot of different, I think Punjab is the language. So there's Sikhism is one religion that's near Bangladesh, and Hinduism, and I don't remember what else. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what
sure
Anisha,
there's a
or whatever her
Christian-
name is, says. But in the meantime,
Yeah.
one of the things I can say, and Liam, let me know when they are ready to go again. So with all due respect to Mr. Brand, when I heard him say that 100% of the answer to addiction lies in the spiritual realm. I am never going to knock the spiritual realm. I'm a spiritual person myself, and I believe that's a huge component. I don't believe that's the only component. I do know that there is a genetic component to addictions. We know that both from adoption studies, where you have people who are born to a biological mom and dad who have addictions, but raised in a non-addictive household. Those folks are way more likely than the average person to develop an addiction. And going the other direction too, that people who are born to a non-addictive bio mom and dad, but raised in an addictive household, do not have an increased risk. So when I think of things that we've uncovered genetically, things like the MTHFR, which is not me cursing, it's methyl tetrahydrofolate reductionase enzyme genetic mutation, and other things. I sent those to Liam in the chat so we can take a look at them afterwards.
That was
and
a
it looks
mouthful.
like, no, right? Isn't it though? Yeah. So it looks like we've got Dr. Christine, or Admiral Brian.
Dr. Brian Christine. Let's see what he's got to say.
Listen, for each individual, it may be a different pathway for getting active. There are some individuals who may want to spend a lot of time in the gym. There may be some individuals who their idea of getting active is going to be to get out on a bicycle and ride with their family, with their kids, with their spouse. There may be some people who want to take long walks or swim or engage in triathlon like I used to do back in the day. Absolutely, getting active is something we believe in. We think it's something that's going to lead to better health in this country. It's going to lead to better physical health. It's going to lead to better emotional health, better mental health, because there's plenty of data to show that individuals who are using their bodies, who are getting exercise, getting good sleep, because that's incredibly important, keeping down their weight, keeping their body lean and healthy, those individuals have less tendency to be depressed or to contemplate suicide. So this all stitches together in our MAHA movement. We see the reactivation of the presidential fitness test. Secretary Kennedy has talked about that with President Trump. Hugely important because we want our kids to get active. When we've got 20% of our youth who are obese, when we have 77% of young men and women ages 18 to 24, the prime recruiting age, they are unfit for military service, primarily because of obesity and chronic disease. We've got a real crisis in this country. So eating real food, getting active, working on our mental health, working on our relationships with one another, encouraging our kids to use their bodies by reintroducing the presidential fitness test. All of these are incredibly important to making America healthy again, to making America great again. Listen, I think it's the most important thing that we'll probably do here at our time at HHS. There are so many great things that we're doing under Secretary Kennedy and under President Trump's leadership. There are so many wonderful things we're doing, things that will really change the country. But I believe these concepts we're talking about today are vitally important for men, women, and children. And I want to go ahead and say, perhaps especially important for men. My practice was over 35 years as a urologist, but 27 of those years were spent exclusively in men's health. That was my area of expertise. We know that chronic disease rates, obesity, hypertension, diabetes, mental health issues are all higher in men versus women. Men live on average about 6 years less than women. We know that these things, chronic disease, we know that mental health challenges are greater in men, with 80% of suicides being carried out by men. All of the things we're talking about, eating, exercising, being healthy, getting our kids active, all of these are going to help make America healthy again, make America great again, Tony. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here talking with you about it. It is so important. Venues like this help us to spread the good news. I like to say evangelize and spread the gospel, the good news of our MAHA movement. of what we're doing for the country, what we're doing for all men, women, and children. I appreciate the opportunity talking with you. Thank you so much. And listen, I'll be happy to come on anytime. Thank you for what you do. And I will have to say, I think listening to Russell Brand, it's a tough act to follow, but I'm glad to have the time with you today.
Oh, right.
Definitely a very tough act.
You know what they say, Susan?
What do they say, Liam?
The best exercise is the one that you'll do.
Exactly. I totally agree. Okay, so I'm going to call him a buddy, even though that's a little bit overstated. But I went to college with a fellow named Adam Cifu, C-I-F-U. Adam is a doctor, and on Substack, he and some of his colleagues write a column or a Substack called Sensible Medicine. And Adam posted something about all the studies on exercise, and it makes him insane that they're spending, I guess it's taxpayer money on studies looking at these minutia aspects of exercise. Is it better if you do it at 10:30 p.m. or 10:45 p.m.? Is it better if you do 41 sustained minutes or 38 sustained minutes? And his thing is, we know exercise works. Could we just tell people to do it? And I could not agree more. Don't overcomplicate it. Just move your body.
Move your body. Yes.
You got to move it. Next song. Sing with me, Liam. You got to move it.
Move it. Move your body. House your body.
That's right. I mean, you've got to move it, right? If you rest, you rust as we get older. There's a sensible medicine that's all about that. It's about just, instead of asking your kid to go down and get you the thing from the basement, get your butt up off the sofa, go down and get back up again, because it's good for you. And if you don't do it, you're going to lose the ability. And we don't want to be, at least I don't want to be, hunched over. And the other day I was in, go ahead.
And we used to have to get up to change the channel. So just watching TV, we had exercise.
You had to walk all the way across the room to change the channel. You had to get out of the car to raise the garage door and then get back in. You had to chop your vegetables because they didn't come pre-chopped. There's so many things that you had to do. And the other day I was buying a big old carton of white paper for the printer. So many packages of it. And it was heavy. And somebody asked, do you want a card for that? And I thought about it. And then I said, no, because I need my arm strength.
I'm getting my exercise on.
So I can hold my future grandbabies, right, Liam? I need to hold those grandbabies.
That's right. Exactly.
All right, Leanna.
So this is the truth about seed oils, right? Me and Leanne are going to talk about this soon someday. All right, here we go.
Is olive oil a seed oil?
Yeah, seed oils. The truth about seed oils.
Yeah.
And the cups say food is healing. I'm drinking ginger tea, which, by the way, is one of the best things for the skin. It's something that I drink every single day for the last 17 years. So in 2009, I was hit with a golf ball sized tumor right here in my throat, early stages of cancer, along with a whole host of other health issues, and healed myself naturally. I also had acne and acne scars. And so when I first started my detox plan with a functional doctor and a naturopath, it was all about food and detoxing my gut. But then I started to dive into, okay, the skin is the largest organ. The largest organ we have is our skin. So I realized everything that we put on our skin is just as important as what we put into our mouth, because our skin is absorbing everything, and it goes into our bloodstream, it goes into our organs, it goes into our digestive system, it goes into our lymphatic system. And so it's just so important that we consider what is going on our skin, not just inside our mouth. So the Environmental Working Group actually reports that the average woman every single day will consume 168 chemicals just from personal care products. This is crazy. And it's just adding so much toxic burden to our system. And we can't afford to have that. We need to keep our immune systems up, our lymphatic system clean and cleansed during this time to keep fighting this good fight. And so here are just some of the things that affect the skin. Food, we know polluted air affects the skin. too. It's why it's very important to have an air filter in your home. Unfiltered shower water. It's full of chlorine, fluoride, pharmaceutical drugs. That's going into your skin, your hair, your nails. So you want to invest in a really good water filter for your shower. Unfiltered drinking water, fragrances, perfumes. I have not worn perfume for 17 years because also my cancer was on my lymphatic system. So people who wear perfume, right, straight into the lymphatic system, on the wrist or the neck, it's going straight into the lymphatic system. And it's linked to hormone disruption, cancer, and also it's just so bad for the skin. Skincare as well, makeup. All the makeup that I wear is natural, organic, superfood makeup. So my skin is getting nourishment and at the same time as being able to wear makeup. And then my new book about seed oils, The Truth About Seed Oils with Sherry Kalbaum. And thank you so much, Tony, for publishing this epic book, is that there are seed oils in skincare and shampoos and conditioners. So you'll see sunflower oil or sunflower lecithin in sunscreens and skincare and lotions and cleansers. Stay away from those. Let's see what else. So one of the, I'll just move to a quick few solutions here for you guys. So one of the main solutions that I found in the last 17 years is bentonite clay. Bentonite clay is volcanic ash. It comes from Utah here in America, and it is like nature's Botox first and foremost. So you can put it as a mask and do it really thick. Let it sit for an hour. It will pull out all impurities and it will set your muscles. So it's great for training your muscles. And then also you can drink it. So when I was really sick 17 years ago, I would drink it to absorb toxins, and then I would also bathe in it as well. So it's great for a bath. Add a cup of bentonite clay to a bath and sit in there for an hour, and your skin will just be so nourished, so hydrated, and look so beautiful and so glowing. And then you obviously want to eliminate the worst things for skin, which is refined sugar and seed oils. Those are the two worst things for the skin. And since I've healed, I've become a certified nutritionist. So I've worked with clients for years, and I work with a ton of people who have had acne, psoriasis, eczema, and every single one of them get healed if they cleanse the liver and the gut. The only reason someone has those issues is because of buildup of toxins in the liver and the gut. So drinking bentonite clay, going on the earth diet, drinking green juice, eliminating those toxic things helps to clean out the liver and the gut, and then will help clean out the skin. I've never seen someone heal psoriasis, acne, or eczema from topical medications. That might just get rid of the inflammation and hit the symptoms, but it doesn't actually heal and go in and heal the root cause. So I hope that helps someone here today. Thank you so much, everyone, for being an advocate for MAHA, and let's keep making America healthy again.
Let's keep making America healthy again. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of bentonite clay. Oop, I lost you, Susan. Can't hear you. I got you unmuted. Oh my goodness, we lost Susan. Let's see.
Censored.
No, that's Tony. We can't hear Susan. Oh my goodness.
Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. How about now, Liam? I
There you
accidentally
go,
pressed the mute button on myself. So bentonite clay is one of those things that, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, I read about it in a book on healing joint pain naturally. Took it. It was one of those days I had had a full night of sleep, and I was wondering how on earth I was going to make it, no pun intended, make it through a work day, let alone say something coherent and semi-intelligent to clients. And I drove to the health food store and I took it. And about an hour later, the fog lifted. It was like the angels were singing and I could think. And it was magical. So I that is a feeling that I know now when I have it. It's a toxin thing, not a lack of sleep thing. And I'll take some charcoal, some bentonite clay, fulvic and humic acid, whatever I've got around to bind up the toxins. And then I'm back. Then I can think again and find words.
She mentioned using it as ever used it as a topical clay type of
Yeah,
thing?
so I haven't done as much of that, but I know that people do, and it's not an expensive one. I just sent it to you, Liam, in the chat, and it looks like it is $20 for a 10-ounce bottle, so or rather a 10-ounce container of the powder. And that powder, you're only using maybe a teaspoon at a time, so it's going to last for a while. And you can do either or. You can mix it as a paste and apply it. I suppose if you have acne, or if you had, I suppose if you were trying to heal some type of a skin thing, some type of maybe a rash or something. And then my use has always been internally. And the only caveats that I'm aware of are that you take binders apart from anything like a medicine or a nutrient that you do want the benefit of, because it will
bind.
It'll bind those too. And then you need to be pooping because you got to get rid of it. Binding it is one thing, but you got to move it along. So fiber is important to add if you're doing all of that.
Bind and grind. All right, let's see what
very cute little
Carol
saying,
has.
Liam. Thank you.
Especially fortunate that we have a secretary that sees people in policy, that he believes that we can issue programs that have compassion, and that he wants to give every American with that has an addiction or a mental illness the opportunity at recovery and to live fulfilling lives in communities. The flagship of that $700 million is a $100 million program called the Safety Through Recovery Engagement and Evidence-Based Treatment and Supports Program. This is the STREETS initiative. This will award 8 communities $100 million over 4 years to develop multi-sector state-of-the-art systems for people who are homeless or who have substance use disorders. And as we heard, and we know that they're inextricably linked. Studies have shown up to 80% of the homeless populations have addictions or serious mental illness. It's probably more than that. This program will place special emphasis on rapid, comprehensive, coordinated street-based engagement, treatment, recovery supports using community-wide approaches that bring together government, health and housing programs, law enforcement, and the courts as well. Secondarily, we have $233 million for our certified community behavioral health centers. We have 500 of those nationally right now. We need 5,000. These are community-based programs that provide mental health and substance use services. These grants will help to establish more of those. These programs are effective. We know that they reduce hospitalizations. We know that they reduce emergency room visits. We know that they reduce involvement with law enforcement. And very importantly, it's important for American families. CCBHCs, or these treatment centers, can help families that struggle with access. If you want to get into a CCBHC, it can be done within hours or days, when we know many people struggle for months to try and find appointments for their loved ones. We also are issuing $80 million for substance use treatment. These are for emergency medical training programs, drug courts, programs for treatment and pregnant and postpartum women. We also are doing $70 million for mental health services across American communities that will address childhood trauma, deliver mobile crisis services, divert youth and adults with mental illnesses out of the criminal justice system, and address the needs of at-risk infants and young children. Finally, this is important work. I like to say, and you alluded to this in your opening comments, Tony, that we all know somebody, we all love somebody, or we are somebody with one of these conditions. It's important work. We're fortunate to have Secretary Kennedy leading these efforts and this energy, and spreading the message that recovery is possible. So thank you very much.
Yes, recovery is
Sorry about that.
is possible.
It is so possible. And one of the things that makes me livid is that We know at this point what will actually be curative for many things, but instead we continue to do the old way, which is to treat things with just a whole handful of pharmaceuticals, when if you dig into the genetics, if you dig into the toxins, if you address the chronic inflammatory response syndrome, if you address the imbalance of microbiota in the gut biome, you can get a lot of people who previously met criteria for schizophrenia, which is considered a pretty serious lifelong sentence of a diagnosis, and get them where they are completely well and functioning again. But we're not doing it because we're still in that gap where there's a 20 to 30 year period between a discovery being made in a lab and then word of that discovery making it into common practice in the offices of most doctors. Has to go through a whole process of being ignored for a while, and then being written about in medical journals, and then being ignored for a while, and being presented at conferences, and then doctors raising eyebrows, and then finally concluding, hey, let's do it this way. So I'd love to see us shorten that 20 to 30 year time period. Are we back? Yeah.
Let's see. We've got Tony. Is he introducing someone, or is it the end of the show
I'm
already?
not quite sure. So I wasn't quite clear on who that person was, Chris Carroll. We didn't have his credentials. Go ahead.
I think he was somebody in charge of releasing money for programs, but let's see what Tony has to say.
Lead HHS person for mental health is who I have in there. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Challenges and concerns they have. And he's open to working hard to solving those challenges and those concerns, in any way that he can. So thank you for coming on. Thanks for coming to our big event, yesterday, and welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Yeah, it was great meeting with you in our office just before that as well, to be able to spend that time with you. And I'm grateful for your leadership, your team. Of course, Secretary Kennedy, who has been such an important partner and leader. And I'm excited about all of the great work that we're going to be able to do together in the months and the years that are ahead. Just a couple of weeks ago, we passed the 500th day mark of President Trump's term in office. To mark that occasion, we released a list of our next 100 top pro-environmental actions that we took since the 1 year mark. On President Trump's 1 year mark, we released a list of our top 500 environmental actions that we took in the first year of President Trump's term in office. And our core mission is protecting human health and the environment. And that's why those releases are the announcements coming out of our agency that I'm most proud of, that I feel are the most important announcements that we have been making. There's a lot of work that the agency is working on that we know is very important to the community that is engaged with you, Tony. And it's been great for us to be able to have some of our agency leaders participating on these calls. So thank you for those invites. With regards to PFAS, with regards to a lead service line replacement, we added microplastics to the contaminant candidate list for the first time ever recently. And I wanted to just touch about the few different aspects of PFAS here for a moment that we're working on. There have been so many advancements as it relates to the treatment, disposal, destruction, all the innovation, the technologies that are out there. Last year, we released the updated EPA disposal and destruction guidance for PFAS. And instead of doing it once every 3 years, what we announced last year is that we were going to start doing it once per year. So we just released the updated guidance, which has come a long way just in the last year. Now, there's expensive technologies that are out there that like granular activated carbon. I come from Suffolk County, New York, where the county has invested tens of millions of dollars in that technology. At the same time, innovation like, for example, foam fractionation, which is something that our agency has been excited about, is providing a way to, for example, with that technology, lift PFAS up to the surface as foam. You remove the foam. When you're disposing of the foam, it is far less cost in order to be able to do that. We have research that's going on with PFAS internally within our agency. We have PFAS research that's going externally as well as public-private partnerships. We have grants that are going out of the agency with regards to PFAS. And we made a decision to keep the 2029 deadline on PFOA and PFOS, the maximum contaminant levels that were set. We do have some water systems, like there are rural water systems that are low-income communities with 5 employees. They're asking for a little bit more time. We've gotten some of that feedback from across the country. So we're working through some kind of an opt-in process, possibly for some of those that do state that case of needing more time. While Congress deals with something called passive receiver, right now under the law, the water system has to pay the cost. The cost gets passed off to the ratepayer. The ratepayer essentially ends up having to clean up PFAS contamination that they're not responsible for, and that's something that hopefully Congress can be able to tackle. And I just wanted to briefly mention there are 4 other forms of PFAS. When we came into the agency, we inherited a decision that was made in setting maximum contaminant levels for those 4. Under the Safe Drinking Water Act, it's a sequential process in statute: preliminary regulatory determination, public comment period, final regulatory determination, proposed regulation, public comment period, final regulation. What they did was they condensed steps. So the agency was sued. We inherited those lawsuits. And rather than waiting and losing in court months or years down the road and having to restart the process, we made the decision to just restart the process now. Some people, they look at that and they'll see a headline and they won't hear about all the other work that we're doing or the reasoning as to why we're going back through that process on those 4 chemicals. So I just wanted to explain that as well. So I know we only had 5 minutes. I wanted to say thank you to you, Tony. Of course, a shout out to Secretary Kennedy, Stephanie Spear, and their team at HHS and Dr. Oz. And look forward to continuing to stay engaged. And thank you to everyone who's involved with a movement that I expect to be lasting decades and generations. It's not just a movement for one election that's passed or even one term in office. This is a movement that is built to endure, and it's an honor to be part of it here with you.
Lee Zeldin, that's a big name I hear a lot.
Do you?
First time it's like they're always talking about Lee Zeldin and this discussion and that discussion. This is the first time I seen what he looks like. Yeah, so he had a lot of interesting things to say.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm not familiar with that name. So you and I we're reading different things and listening to different things. And that's great because you know things I don't and vice versa. So I'm wondering, we never heard back from our new person that joined us from Bangladesh. I'm wondering where she is and what she might have to say, but she's gone quiet on us.
Yeah. Anisha.
Oh, there she is. Oh, right there she
probably
is.
like 3:00 in the morning now.
That's
Yeah,
true. Maybe
so
Liam, we put her to sleep. Do you think we bored her to sleep?
Maybe that deserves
Some people count sheep. Some people count backwards from 100. Some people listen to Liam and Susan and then they go night-nights right away.
And they just go right to sleep, right?
Right.
Or like video Simonex, just
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. Oh, well, I suppose it's
But,
better than lots of other things people could do in pursuit of sleep, right?
That's right. You get healthy. Why? You get all this health information.
Right. And then maybe it's even entering subconsciously. You're still kind of hearing it even as you're drifting off. And when you wake up in the morning, you're just filled with this, just all of a sudden you have to get up and go out in the sun, and you find you want to start doing yoga or calisthenics or something.
And you have no taste for seed oils. You're just like
none. All of a sudden they taste
that.
disgusting, and you've got a craving for grass-fed whatever. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And
bentonite clay. All of a sudden you're digging in your dirt, and you think before I plant the carrots, I'm just going to have a scoop. Why not? Might make you feel
dirt
so much
don't
better.
hurt.
Right?
Dirt don't hurt. That's
My kids were so horrified when I started doing that, and it looks kind of disgusting, the bentonite clay. It's gray and gloppy, and so it became a thing in the house of drink your mud, Mom. Okay, I'm like, okay, I'm drinking mud. It's making me feel
your
better.
mud, Mom. Yeah, whatever works.
Right?
All right, let's see what
Gary Brecka.
Gary Brecka.
Information from large data studies and meta-analyses than we do from highly narrow targeted, randomized, even gold standard clinical trials. I always go back to the adage that we've never done a gold standard clinical trial, placebo-controlled trial on parachutes, but nobody would jump out of an airplane without one because we have so much data that they are safe and effective and they actually work. But you couldn't make a scientific claim that they're effective or that they work. There's absolutely no evidence that parachutes work because we've never actually conducted gold standard research to prove that. And I think a lot of times we can apply this same common sense approach to things like animal testing. And I think very often too, we lose the argument with animal testing when we start directing it towards whether or not it is ethical, because, I'm a big believer that it's not ethical, but the target being, is this testing ethical or is it not ethical, is lost to the greater good argument. We use this argument in wartime and we say there's a certain number of innocent, human casualties that will be a byproduct of accomplishing a larger mission, and you lose the argument on disposable human life. I think the argument should be reframed as, is it even necessary? And if you look at what the data says about animal models, they tend to be very poor predictors of human biology. We know that close to 90% of drugs that pass animal testing still fail in human trials. And these are often because of toxicity or lack of efficacy that the animal trial never revealed. The amazing era that we live in now is that we have human relevant tools. These are AI modeling, methylation modeling, that are faster, they're cheaper, they're validated, and they're even more accurate. We have AI toxicity models now that are far more accurate than animal testing and even more accurate than narrow human clinical trials. We have organs on a chip, which are safe ways to look at organ testing with certain drugs or other things that we would normally be testing in animals. We have organoids, which are 3D human tissues. These are literally three-dimensional human tissues. We have in vitro human cell assays that are far more accurate because they can take 700 trillion independent variables and create an actionable result. We can actually look at all 300 billion methylation pathways at the same time that we are considering external variables. So there's a growing list of tests and human-based methods that are already exceeded by these AI toxicity models. And so I think reframing animal testing, it's not to say that the ethical argument is not a good argument, but reframing the argument as whether or not it's even necessary because we have better, more accurate models, I think would go further towards pushing animal testing, out of our future and really making this AI modeling, and some of these other avenues that we have that are readily available more promising. You also have been touching on something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I'll be fast if I can. Again, I come from a big data background, a data science background, and at the tail end of my career in mortality modeling, we had a saying in addiction that the absence of dopamine was the presence of addiction. Right about the time that I was sunsetting that career, PET scanning started coming out, proving that the D2 dopamine receptor reduction in the prefrontal cortex was a significant driver of addiction. And we rarely treat the dopamine deficiency. We treat the tachyphylactic response that comes from being physically addicted to a chemical compound or other compounds. And we get rid of that physical addiction, but we don't actually treat the driver of behavior. And dopamine is the driver of behavior. The methylation of tyrosine and L-dopa and phenylalanine into this really impactful neurotransmitter called dopamine, which is the driver of behavior, was a way for us to put addiction permanently into remission, not to have it shift. addiction never really has a tendency to go away. It has a tendency to shift. Drug addicts become alcoholics. Alcoholics become workaholics. Workaholics become workoutaholics. This is very well documented. And treating the dopamine deficiency as a way of creating permanency. As you know, when in the tail end of my career, we started modeling as what were called comorbidity factors, things like social connection, what we referred to as methylation support, which was really dietary support, activity, as ways of determining how successful someone would be coming out of addictive treatment, because that had a direct impact on their mortality. And we were trying to zero in on mortality. We wanted to know what was the chance that this person would relapse. And we found that social connections and methylation support through proper dieting, even targeted supplementation, and activity was a greater predictor of relapse than what we were getting from some of these addiction models. And with that, I will hand back my time because I'm already over, but thank you for having me.
All right, talking about addiction and dopamine and animal testing.
And I want to say a word about tyrosine, which is it's a great way to boost dopamine. It's not, it's an over-the-counter amino acid. It is inexpensive. It is readily available on Amazon, in a health food store, probably not in a regular pharmacy like a CVS or a Walmart, but readily available. It is taken on an empty stomach. Dosage range varies considerably from person to person, just like with a medication, dosages vary. And the only real caveat is to wait about an hour until eating a protein food. The reason being that the other amino acids in the protein food will compete with the tyrosine for going across the blood-brain barrier and being converted into norepinephrine and dopamine. So that's something that anyone who is looking, who feels that they benefit from stimulant medication or would, but doesn't want to be on a stimulant medication because of the addictive nature, because of the link between being on those medications and developing a subsequent addiction, could look at a sort of low-hanging fruit like tyrosine, where the risks that I know of are little to non-existent. Obviously check with your doctor just in case, but it's an option.
Yes, that sounds exciting. Tyrosine.
Tyrosine, yeah. And there's I can shoot you some links, Liam, for the chat, but there's a few psychiatrists who are really big on using aminos to correct the neurotransmitter stuff. While at the same time, we also have information that the neurotransmitter theory of depression has never been proven, and at this point has been pretty solidly disproven, in that when they look at spinal tap fluid of people and look at their levels of serotonin and dopamine and whatnot, sometimes the results aren't what you'd think. You can be low in something and still feel pretty good, or high and still feel pretty terrible.
Yeah, I just heard that also, that the entire theory of serotonin, the link between serotonin and depression, is being questioned now.
It is. I mean, it's been pretty solidly disproven, although again, it's going to take a long time for that to catch up to common practice in psychiatric prescriber world. But what we do know is the drugs work in some people, and we know that they work via mitochondrial enhancement. So going back to our discussion about sunlight and its multitudinous benefits, one of them is mitochondrial activation. There are also supplements, MitoQ, there's a newer one called urolithin. Those are great mitochondrial enhancers as well.
And speaking of sunlight, this gentleman, I believe, has a book about the benefits of sunlight. Let's see what he has to say.
I had pitched Tony and Skyhorse for the Cancer as a Parasite book. You know, I'm a Cancer as a Parasite guy. And we somehow vitamin D came up in sunlight. And after about an hour of talking about vitamin D and sunlight, we got to the Cancer as a Parasite book. So, you know, Tony said that, hey, I've been wanting to do a book on vitamin D, and here it is. So, you know, be careful what you get off topic with Tony, because you'll end up writing a book about it. So the start of my interest in vitamin D was about 23 years ago. I had a disease that I actually cured myself when there was no cure. So back in graduate school, I was diagnosed with psoriasis. which is an autoimmune condition. The dermatologists there were clear. There's no cure. There's only ways to manage it. And over the years, they had all kinds of concoctions, creams, tart creams, steroids, ointments. None of it really worked. And living in Vermont, every single fall, my skin would start to flake up. And it got worse year after year until finally, after 3 or 4 years, about a third of my body was covered. And, so it became kind of a nuisance to really a life-threatening condition. I did notice that every time I traveled to Florida, my skin cleared up. I assumed it was the salt water. It wasn't. And one day it finally hit me. It was the sun. 10 times obvious things. I'm a scientist. Maybe I'll figure it out someday. So finally I figured out it's something about the sun. Well, what is it about the sun? Well, the sun makes vitamin D. So what I started to do was to treat myself and take between 5,000 and 8,000 international units of vitamin D3. And within about, I'd say, 9 or 10 weeks, my skin was clear. And it's been clear for 23 years since. So I cured a condition using just simple old vitamin D and sunlight that had no cure. And I felt that I was lucky to have psoriasis because it allowed me to observe what the vitamin D was doing. Like my skin was almost like a meter. So I knew how to titrate my dose, and that as long as I took the vitamin D, it stayed clear. So, that was a happy accident that kind of led me on a 40-year exploration of vitamin D. So that, and that's where we are today. So the heart of the book is based on the fact that each one of our almost 37 trillion cells has a receptor for vitamin D, or is affected by vitamin D. When the vitamin D locks into the receptor, it changes the expression of genes, and it turns on and off thousands of different genes. So think about what that means. Your body doesn't put a receptor on virtually every cell for a nutrient that it considers optional. And what we've done over the past 50 years is we've vilified vitamin D. So right now we're starting to reap the rewards of that behavior. So in the early 60s, about 11% of the population, this is according to the recent CDC data, had some sort of a chronic condition. Now about 8 in 10 have it. And the reason is because we have vilified the sun. So there's vitamin D receptors on every organ system. So that's how vitamin D deficiency eventually expresses itself in disease and certain conditions. And one problem that we have now is that, and that we've had for quite a while, is that the government's the recommended dietary allowances are way too low. So it's about 600 IU per day, which is ridiculous. That's enough to keep our bones from breaking, but not adequate for ideal health. And as a measure of how off that 600 is, if a young person goes out in the sun and exposes their skin to sunlight for 15 to 20 minutes, they'll make between 15 and 20,000 units of vitamin D. So we're off by orders and orders of magnitude. So recently, I've been taking vitamin D for about 23 years, and I'm extremely healthy. I don't need to go to the doctor. I have no conditions. I'm 67 years old. And I can still do everything that I could do when I was a young person. But I was curious as to how effective or how different I might be. So what I did is I had some a blood panel done and some other information. So I got just a general blood test. It looked at testosterone, albumin, a couple other measures. And I referenced that to norms for different age groups. So it came back that, and I put it all into flawed AI, which is a risky thing, but I thought it would be an interesting experiment. And I said, so my chronological age is 67, based on these blood values and other information I put in. What is my biological age? And it said 51. So think about that. In the 23 years that I've been taking vitamin D, based on those particular blood measures, I've only aged 7 years. And I talk in the book about, how vitamin D is involved in longevity. And basically, as we age, our skin becomes less and less efficient at making vitamin D. And it's kind of a built-in death mechanism. So we have to supplement. And, whatever that supplement is, it remains to be seen, and it's going to be different for everybody. But one thing that I wanted to dovetail on with what Gary Brecka had said is that with animal research, vitamin D is an uncontrolled variable in vitamin D research. One reason why a lot of big pharma experiments don't work is because the lab animals are vitamin D replete, but the humans aren't. So you have a complete mismatch between the tested group, the animals, and the group that you want to apply it to, the humans. So you have, if humans were vitamin D replete, perhaps the drugs that fail would work. The problem is if big pharma were to acknowledge the vitamin D connection, that would basically destroy their entire book of business regarding, biologic drugs. So that's it. Thank you for the opportunity to write the book and to speak.
Yes, the vitamin D component. He makes a good point saying that
Yep.
the animals that you test are completely nutrient rich with vitamin D as opposed to the human being, which is
Right.
chronically deficient.
Exactly. And so it's not apples to apples. And it is one of many ways that we get the wool pulled over our eyes. And there are studies that purport to show X, Y, or Z. But if you delve into it, it's not really that simple. A lot of people don't know, for example, that when a pharmaceutical company develops a new product or drug, the only entity that is ever in charge of studying the safety and efficacy of that product is the very same company that manufactured it. A lot of people don't know that the only entity that views the raw data is the company that manufactured the product or drug. The only entity that interprets the data is the entity that developed the drug. And furthermore, if there are two people, we have Susan and Liam, and we are in a 8-week study, and I get the placebo and I chug along till week 8. But poor Liam by week 4 drops out because his migraines are killing him or his stomach bloating or whatever the symptom is. Liam is never included in the final results. He is dropped out and coded as non-compliant so that the drug company can say that the drug has a reduced incidence of side effects as compared to what the real number is, which is why the insert might say only 2% of the people got, I don't know, gangrene of the left big toe. But the doctors prescribing it will say that's really funny because I feel like maybe 20% or 30% of the patients I prescribe it to come back with gangrene of the left big toe. And I'm making it up. Yeah, I know. Isn't it crazy?
Fascinating information. I had no idea that type of collusion and retardedness existed.
I don't understand. Like, to me, it is just like sort of 101. Why would you put the fox in charge of the hen house? Why? I don't understand it. In the same way that I don't understand why the individuals who sit on the FDA and the CDC are allowed to have huge investments in the pharmaceutical industry. It's such a blatant conflict of interest that I don't understand why somebody hasn't screamed and thrown a fit. I mean, is somebody being all of us, American citizens? Why aren't we protesting? Why aren't we lobbying to change it? And I don't understand.
Why are we even participating? We should just fire your MD. All right, so here we go.
All right, Rob Brown.
Dr. Rob Brown, let's see who's up to.
When I see images created by the interactions of radiation on the body daily, ionizing radiation we use in CAT scans and PET scans, we see the images generated by the passage of this ionizing radiation through the body. And with MRI scans, we have pulsations of radiofrequency radiation that pass through the body, and they create images on an MRI machine. So I see the different tissues in the body and how they interact with these forms of radiation. And during my training, I developed a respect for radiation. It was instilled to me by my mentors, and it was pretty much limited to ionizing radiation, in other words, gamma rays and X-rays, because at that time, we believed that that was the only type of radiation that could cause damage. It caused ionization of atoms, and that could lead to cancer. And so we believed that non-ionizing radiation was safe, that the only effect that it could have was a generation of heat. And as a result of that, wireless technology has exploded. Unfortunately, as our environment has become increasingly filled with waves of human-generated electromagnetic radiation, it's become abundantly clear that these bandwidths of non-ionizing radiation aren't as safe as we were led to believe. And uncovering the impact of non-ionizing radiation on health has really become my passion these past number of years. And in the brief time that I have here, I'd like to impress upon you a few bits of information. First of all, microwave radiation penetrates into our bodies. When you place a cell phone into your pocket, every moment that it's pinging the network, the emissions from the phone are not only radiating out into the environment, they're penetrating through your pocket and into your body. It's hard to imagine that something invisible like a silent radio frequency radiation wave can impact our health. We're used to thinking about health and wellness in terms of biochemistry and how different compounds and proteins and enzymes work and how effective they are. But in this case, we're talking about pure energy, pure form of energy. And although many in the scientific community are still under the impression that this form of radiation is only generating heat, it's become clear that this radiation is doing more to us than we really even understand at this point. It's affecting the electromagnetic interaction of water molecules with themselves, and it's causing the depolarization of cell membranes. With long-term exposure, the alteration in the cell membrane can lead to a potential cascade of events that can lead to the cell becoming distressed and potentially diseased. It's a lot to grasp, for this science bridges the disciplines of biology and medicine, physics and engineering. And there are literally thousands and thousands of articles in the scientific literature cataloging the various impacts of human and environmental health effects from this form of radiation. Unpacking and integrating this information can seem daunting because there's so much out there to read and learn. And it was my goal in writing Unplugged to tell stories from my own personal experience and provide scientific information to the reader to help them become educated about the health effects of this form of radiation and to learn how to modify daily behavior so that we can engage the technology and reap the benefits of this amazing technology that we have, while at the same time maintaining our health. And so that was really my goal, and I think that with the end product, it's a success. I think that anybody reading the book will learn quite a bit from it. So thank you again for asking me to speak today. I really appreciate it.
All right, they're really spreading the information out through all different segments. We were going from animal testing to the sun to electro.
So, Liam, one of the things that I learned when I was in my school counseling job, when I asked our middle school director if I could address cell phones and nutrition and sleep at a parent coffee. And she said, by all means, please do. So I did. And in the research that I did when I was getting ready for it, I found that radiation is problematic for everybody. But a lot of people don't know that children, their skulls and their tissues are thinner and more absorbent. So while if a child and an adult both sleep with the same proximity to a device that emits radiation, the child can absorb up to 10 times as much radiation into his or her bone marrow. So that's pretty alarming, especially because they do sleep with it not even 6 inches away, but 2 or 3 inches away from the brain when they have it under their pillow and they're lying on their pillow at night.
Yeah, and they say that if you've got, if you're in an SUV and you get 5 people in the SUV, everybody's got a cell phone, you're literally like in a microwave oven with all of that radiation.
Correct. But if you put your phone in airplane mode, supposedly it does not emit radiation or as much. And the other thing, we're supposed to turn our routers off at night. I have not been able to sell my husband on that one, but
turn the routers off?
If the router's off, so you're still going to get the radiation. For example, we have a smart meter for our water supply. So you're still going to get the radiation from other houses, and it's just everywhere. But I guess you're gonna cut down on it. And then of course the other thing is to wear the handy dandy Airs Tech, which is, let's see what that can do here. Looks like this, and it this was about $200.
Cool.
And yeah, it doubles as a little piece of jewelry that I do get compliments on it. And it does not reduce the amount of radiation that you're exposed to, but what it does is supposedly change the form into something that's less harmful for your cells. I feel like it makes a difference. And when I went on the websites that are for people who struggle with chronic illness, a lot of them were saying it felt to them like it made a difference. So
fascinating. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It's interesting, all the gadgets and gizmos. All right, Daniel Pampa.
Daniel Pampa in the house.
Understand that. I have so much to say about so many of these topics. Caddy, you can't put me last. I go out of my mind because, looking at the sun, I mean, Dr. Subble, your book, I can't wait to read it. Eric Berg talked about the sun, people going in the sun and how it leads to health. I can say this, it's not even just about vitamin D. The sun does so many things that I believe we haven't even discovered yet. One of which is cholesterol sulfate. It takes cholesterol, puts a sulfur on it, and it literally leads to our hormones. Vitamin D is a pro-hormone, but it absolutely immediately affects immunity, how our body works. And think about this. We've been scared of cancer because we've been, told that the sun causes cancer. So we're slathering ourselves with sunscreen loaded with oxybenzone as an active ingredient, which we know has been linked to hormone disruption and cancer, the very thing we're trying to avoid. Oh, and then it blocks most of the UVB, which, okay, that burns us, but then it exposes us more to UVA, which is the cancer causer. This seems really odd. Oh, and then we're spraying our kids with the aerosol, which it says, you shouldn't breathe it. Well, how do you spray suntan lotion and spray it without breathing it? It shouldn't go into our lungs. So our kids are just like literally taking it into their lungs. Oh, cancer causing. So I have so much to say on this. Oh, and the aerosol itself is toxic. So it's just remarkable. Okay. One of the things, we talked a little bit about dogs, right? This is such a good thing that we're taking, as Gary pointed out, we don't even need to do this research on animals anymore with AI. Of course not. And I think that is the angle that we take. But dogs can be used for great things. Let me tell you what we're doing in our space. My space is filled with people looking for answers for unexplainable illnesses, whether it be autoimmune, thyroid condition, what the heck wrong happened in my life. I have anxiety, brain fog, gut problems. One of the places that people forget to look, or they look incorrectly, and I'll explain that in a minute, is their home environments. Okay, so when I see somebody and I listen to their story, within no time, my brain's thinking they may be in mold. But here's the problem. They bring in the expert, and the expert does what? An air test. Waste of money, waste of time, garbage. Worse yet, it leads them to a false assumption that they're okay and their problem wasn't mold. And then maybe, if they're lucky, they talk to a guy like me that says, oh, air testing. Oh, you dust tested with ERMI? Look, yeah, that's a history of mold, but still not the way. You need a mold dog. See, this is the way we should be using dogs, not testing. We bring a mold dog in. I could tell you story after story. And sure enough, they find the mold. Well, guess what? I'm filming a documentary on this. They bring Gus the mold dog. And if you go to moldpups.com, if you're wondering if you have mold, Stacy brought Gus in my house for the video. And darn Gus kept looking up. Darn Gus came looking up. They found mold in my attic, a 2-year-old home. My son's home. The mold dog from Mold Pups found mold in my son's home around every window. Why? See, the epidemic is, and I am determined to bring this to light and build value in people building homes that people will start choosing safer homes because we have the technology to do it. But what we have to get people to understand first is that they're not feeling well, most likely because of their home. 70, even 80% of homes have severe mold problems in this country because of the way we're building them. And doing an air test, as I pointed out, isn't the way to do it. We need mold dogs to find it. And then we follow a mold dog with a building biologist who goes, this is what happened to my house. This is where Gus sniffed out. And then he starts putting cameras behind the wall and then doing testing behind the wall. And we found the problem. 2-year-old house because it was built incorrectly. And that's most often the case. My son was a 4-year-old house, and now he has $250,000 in remediation because of a house that wasn't built right. Listen, and by the way, I have all the resources, moldpups.com, because they go around the country. Jonathan, the guy, that building biologist that we use with our doctors around the country, it's jfhealthyhomes.com. All that Katia is putting in there. Okay, so once we locate the problem, then it has to be remediated correctly, and that's not getting done as well. The point I want you to take home is that, number one, we have the ability to build safe homes. We're just not. We're putting air gaps in walls and filling it with insulation. Oh, and by the way, on each side of that air gap is mold food. That's right. You wonder why you go to a 1,000-year-old, 200-year-old building in Europe and you don't have a mold problem? It's because they don't put mold food behind their walls. We do. It's called drywall. Cellulose is mold food. Add water one time. Oh, and if you're lucky enough to come through, they'll just cut out where it's wet and they seal it back up and they tell you don't have a problem. Fact is there's mold now all beyond where it showed to get wet. And now you and your family are sick and you don't know why. And I can't tell you how many people this is happening to. It just starts with some fatigue. Then it's some brain fog. Then it's weird gut problems, food allergies, autoimmune, and you're not being told it's your home. Oh, and by the way, Dr. Brown had just discussed that topic. That's another big topic. In filming this piece that I was doing in my house, I brought in a guy that looked at all the dirty electricity in my house, brand new house. 4 things were wired wrong. It was putting electromagnetic frequency into my house. Where my wife and I's heads were, it was at a level that most people will not sleep. Luckily, I was sleeping, but I probably was not sleeping well enough. My wife will tell you she was not. He put in a $200 fix behind my bed. And if you go to, it's in the, Katia is putting it in. It's staticshield.com. $200 fix behind our bed. And it took it from a 60 down to a 0. And it changed our sleep just like that. I say it because the gentleman was right. These frequencies, the way we're building homes, the amount of electromagnetic frequency in our home, it is absolutely a stress on you and your family. You add mold to that, and the fact that you're carrying a cell phone around all day in your pocket, all of that mold stress, electromagnetic stress, we wonder why chronic disease is going like this. And then guess what? Berg's new book, Eric Berg, Change Your Environment. Yes, we need safer environments. One of the first places we look to get people's health back, change their environment, get to the cause, the real cause, which driving all the autoimmune, the epidemic of chronic illness. It is toxins, but the first place we have to change is our homes. Mold is one of the big hidden factors, and so is electromagnetic frequency.
Wow, that's why we love MAHA Media Hub. Gus the Moldy Dog.
So that was new for me because although like mold toxin illness was part of what my situation was, I did not have Gus the mold dog because I didn't know about him. I for sure would have had him otherwise. But he's right that the first mold company that came out did a really poor job of examining our house for mold. They spent about 45 minutes here in the dark. It was, maybe 6 o'clock at night in the winter, didn't even open the cabinets under sinks to look. And that's a prime area for mold. By contrast, the second mold inspector that came out spent 6 hours here, would only do it during the daylight, would not do it when there was snow on the ground because he wanted to be able to do a visual inspection of the perimeter of our house and our foundation. And he explained to me that the air tests are basically useless because the mold isn't going to grow in the center of the room, which is where people capture the air to do the test. The mold is going to grow in your wall, behind your wall. So I'm all about the dogs. If they can sniff out cancer with 99% accuracy, and they can sniff out electronics when they're looking for, I think it's, sex perpetrators that have child porn on devices in their homes, there's no doubt in my mind that they can search out the mold. So bring it on.
And this guy was trying to blame the carpenters, and it's not the price, and the houses are built wrong. The houses are built to spec. When I was a rough framer, I was there at the introduction of Tyvek, which is this. We used to use just regular old tar paper that you'd use for the roof, and would wrap the house in this tar paper, and then we moved to this vapor barrier called Tyvek, and so you wrap the house in this plastic skin, which is supposed to be a one-way vapor thing, keep all the moisture, let the moisture breathe, but it just doesn't make any sense that it would have this one-way functionality. So all these new houses are just this plastic bag.
Correct. It's an invitation to mold. I mean, so I hear you that you worked as a framer, which I did not know. Another piece of Liam Gallegos. I'm putting my pieces together. And that I understand that they're being built within the limits of what we legally require. But I have heard.
You're required. And then you're required to put because you have to have a sustainable home that's going to, capture all of the heat. And so you have these ratings, especially in Europe. A home is rated by how little the air seeps out of your home. So you're just sealing all of the moisture, the cooking, the showers, the farting is all, sealed into the freaking house. And so it's not, he's saying the houses are built wrong.
Well, but they may be being built wrong.
The houses are built to spec.
But if they're let's picture a house that's built of solid stone. That, my guess is, what I'm hearing is that drywall and the way that we build houses, even if it's legal, is an invitation for humidity and mold growth. Whereas I heard him say that in Europe.
That's what he's saying. Before, there was drywall, drywall came into being like in the 1950s, gypsum with paper. It was horsehair, lath, and plaster, which is a completely different.
And we were talking about the
most of Europe is horsehair, lath, and plaster.
Yep. Are we wrapping up? It looks like they're wrapping up.
It looks like they're wrapping up. What kind of wrapping up music?
Again is a renaissance moment in health in America.
A renaissance
for
moment.
Health, freedom, and the truth. Join us at
Time flies when you're having fun.
How time flies when your host ended.
All right,
meeting.
Liam, you got to get.
I was a rough framer for.
I sent you beaucoup things in your in the.
Beaucoup. So. We're going to go here, and this is not there. We're going to go here, and so this is.
Oh, you got to check your CPUs, whatever they are.
We're going to do some CPUing, like you were talking about last time. We're going to be CPUing.
CPUing.
So we're going
to. I smell mold. I need mold. The Gus dog.
CPU.
So I'm going to
open up
your Gus dog. You know what? I kind of think of like the Ghostbusters.
Moldy, yeah, Gus, the moldy dog.
Call Gus. I wonder what Gus looks like. Well, actually, that's one of the things I sent you at the very bottom. I did send you the mold pups. So if you go to the very bottom one, it's mold pups.
So for some reason we are. I'm going to remove the. I'm going to remove the. Stop the screen share, and so we'll see if it goes down. So so we're gonna go right away with the moldy pups here.
The moldy pups, or the mold. Can we call them mold sniffing pups? I don't want the poor dogs to think we're calling
sniffers.
Them the mold sniffers.
You want to call the pups moldy? Here they are. Oh, that's a good looking pup right there.
Oh, let's see him.
Help protect what matters most.
Okay. Yeah, I love that idea, though. I mean, why not? You know,
Yes.
Liam, in the vein of how dumb are
Why
people,
not?
when my daughter was researching in middle school about, she had a science project and she was researching how dogs sniff out cancer. And apparently they do so with 99% accuracy. The next thing we read was that humans were working on trying to
It's amazing.
create a mechanical nose to mimic what the dog can do. And I'm like, why would you do that? The dogs are already at 99%.
Yeah, just
And
use the dog.
just use the darn dog already. That's what they're here for. And mold detection and
If
detection
it's not
of,
broke, don't fix it.
right, right, exactly. All right, how are those CPUs doing, Liam?
Okay. Okay, so we're at 100%, so we're about to break the system. So we
That's a
just
bad
gotta
thing,
calm
right?
down. We
All
just
right.
yeah. So
So I can say something about the
yes.
mold stuff, which is there's a
That's a bad
protocol.
thing. 100%. Is that a bad thing? Yes.
So there's a protocol. It is the Shoemaker
It
protocol.
is. Well,
I believe it's survivingmold.com. I will bring it up when I get a
the moldy
minute.
dog. The
And
mold
it
dogs.
was developed by a Dr. Shoemaker, whose story is a little bit interesting. I think it was 2011. He was on the eastern shore of Maryland, and he kept having fishermen come in with symptoms of chronic illness. They're tired and they have migraines and all these different problems. And he didn't know what to do to make them better because he didn't know what the problem was. Eventually, what he figured out is they had CIRS, which is CIRS. It stands for chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And it basically just means you have high levels of inflammation throughout your body. But they have it in response to perhaps mold or a red tide, which is what you get when on water. I think I'm going to botch the scientific explanation of it. But I know there are times where I have visited my in laws who live in Florida and we can't go in the water because there's a red tide. I guess the pollution is too high. There's something algae like that blooms on the surface, and breathing that, whatever the off gassing of that is, breathing it into your lungs makes you ill. So, at any rate, this Dr. Shoemaker figured that out. He then developed a protocol for how to get people well. Part of his protocol, you probably do need a physician to prescribe certain things, but some of it you can do yourself. And I'm also a big proponent, if you're in an area where you don't have access to a functional doctor, you can't afford it, do your own research, get as knowledgeable as possible. Then find a doctor who is at least open-minded and willing to take some direction, and share with them everything that you've been finding and researching, and ask them if they will work through the protocol with you. So you have to do your homework to find somebody who's a little more receptive and doesn't mind somebody being a little bit bossy. But they're out there. I found some lovely doctors along the way who would say, I've never heard of this, but I am happy to read up on it. And then you're right, Susan, it looks good. Let's give it a try. And then they would order up the thing. So big advocate for sort of taking charge. If it's your health and you're not where you want to be or should be, don't just sit there and listen to a doctor who says there's nothing we can do. That's not been my experience, but I do think you have to do a lot of legwork and a lot of research on your own. And if you're not well enough to, do you have a spouse or a family member or a friend who is well, who would do the research and the advocacy for you and help you find that doctor who's receptive? So how are we doing on our
Yeah.
CP, Liam?
We're doing good while you were
Babbling. That's my skill, right? The babbling.
giving your color commentary. It's
Okay.
just so wonderful to have somebody who has the gift of the gab, and so when there's technical difficulties, you can just sort of take hold of the mic, and it looks like that we're successful. We can give
All right.
some hand claps here,
Woo!
so I can woohoo.
Woo-hoo.
So I can share the screen and see
Nice.
what we have in store. All right. Let's see. we'll start off with the mold pups.
The mold pups, they are at the bottom. They are the last thing that I sent you.
Oh, we gotta just.
Oh, right, we did the mold pups a
Mold
little bit.
pups.
There they are. Yeah.
Helping you protect. We did a little bit. So next on the agenda is got schizophrenia, got milk, got schizophrenia. Here are 6 things that could potentially help you get back on track.
And I think that one I threw in there in response. That's my Substack, by the way, my 30 years down the rabbit hole, which is spelled out THIRTY, 30 years down the rabbit hole.substack.com. But it was in response to somebody saying when they were talking about mental health and addictions, and I think it was Russell Brand who said it's really a spiritual problem. And I'm not denying that. I think that often there's a strong spiritual component that can help many people overcome all kinds of obstacles, including mental health stuff. But there's also some physiological stuff that shows up. And they are things that a functional doctor would test for, a regular general doctor, even a regular psychiatrist or psychiatric nurse practitioner may not check for. So I have appointed myself the job of providing the information. So there's some things in there that can present as symptoms of schizophrenia, whether it's excess copper, whether it is, help me, Liam, what were they? Gut imbalance. You can do
gut
a fecal
imbalance.
Yeah, you can do a fecal transplant from a non-schizophrenic person and put that in the individual with schizophrenia, and apparently the symptoms clear right up. And it goes the other way. If you take the schizophrenic person's poop and you do a fecal transplant into a non-schizophrenic person, they will promptly develop the symptoms of schizophrenia. So there's
and
a lot.
The power of vitamin D to
Vitamin
regulate.
D is huge, yeah. And the 5 phenotypes of depression, that's coming right from a book called something or other. It's linked in that article. But it's, again, things that, regular psychiatrists will still very much talk about mania and depression in bipolar disorder. Well, this chemistry PhD level type person says that mania is really a state of overmethylation. Depression is a state of undermethylation. So many people can eventually get on pharmaceuticals and balance out, but those pharmaceuticals are typically also causing other side effects. And they're an additional thing that liver and kidneys and so forth have to process. When you address methylation defects, you're actually getting down to root cause, because people who are impaired in their ability to methylate are up to 70% impaired in their ability to produce things like methylfolate and SAMe, which are vital for health and detoxification, but also for brain health.
And when we're talking about methylation, because when you hear the word methylation, you hear the word methane. And so methane is like
actually,
a buzzword.
you don't hear methane, you're hearing methyl, methyl, as in methyl groups. So I'm not scientific enough to really understand it, because when you research it, and one of those sites in there, I think, is mthfr.com, they go into these big charts and graphs of the methyl cycle and how this substance that you take in by mouth converts to another substance. And Liam, I think you want to get out of that one. And I think you want to go into, let's see, it is the one. No, that was an exercise one. Bentonite clay. We might as well just go through those if you want to. So if you can't eat it, don't put it on your skin. The woman who was talking about her, she had a cancer diagnosis, but in addition had acne and so forth, and cleared it up with bentonite clay. I've always heard that because your skin is your largest organ, if you can't eat it, why would you put it on your skin? Because then it's ultimately going to absorb into your system. So there are all types of resources out there, including Environmental Working Group, EWG.com. And Liam, you have that one as well. EWG is one of those links that I sent to you. And that will guide you on every product imaginable, whether it is cleaning products, skincare products, sunscreens, foods, as to how concerning is it from a health standpoint. EWG rates things on a 1 to 10. Yep, I think you have it right there. Perfect. So they rate the product. And if you go onto a place like Amazon, say you're looking for sunscreen, instead of just typing in sunscreen, add EWG verified. That's their highest rating, indicating they have really zero safety concerns. And the product that it brings up, whether it is makeup, sunscreen, moisturizer, shampoo, deodorant, you name it, it's going to be the cleanest and squeakiest clean from a non-carcinogenic, non-endocrine disrupting standpoint.
So I just did EWG. I just did that in Bing, and it came up with these EWG verified sunscreen. So is this what you were mentioning?
Yeah,
And then shop
exactly.
EWG verified sunscreen, huge selections, top brands.
Yeah, so you can
EWG
go
verified
on
skin.
that site to do it, but if you don't even want to, you can just shop on Amazon or wherever you normally shop. And if a product has the EWG verified seal, it means EWG signed off and it passed their standards with flying colors. They've been around forever. I don't know who backs them, but I trust them. They will also list with each ingredient what the concern is. So, for example, if the concern is a fragrance that can cause allergic reaction, then if nobody in my family is reacting allergically to that ingredient, I'm not going to worry about it. But if it's carcinogenic, or if it's an endocrine disruptor, or it has PFAS or something like that, then I'm going to have pause and probably not buy it.
Awesome information. Had no idea this.
A lot of people don't. Yeah.
They don't.
And then also an
And
internal
what is?
sunscreen. EWG stands for Environmental Working Group. Also with foods, any packaged processed foods, they rate all of those as well. Household cleaners are an enormous source of toxins. If you think about how you can get a headache from smelling bleach or ammonia, those things are toxic. And when you're breathing in the fumes, you're breathing in toxins. So I try really hard not to use them. And there's you can do homemade cleaners, but these days you can also buy a ton of non-toxic kind of green cleaners that work really well. A lot of them have enzymes that will break down, say, soap scum in your shower, or pet odors on your carpet if you have an animal that peed on the carpet or whatnot. So they have some really good options that aren't toxic.
Outstanding
Laundry is a
information.
big one to think of. Laundry detergents, and particularly fabric softeners, are horrendous.
Yeah, the fabric softeners that make the clothes smell so nice are just supposedly just so bad for you. It's
They are
crazy.
really bad for you. But if you think about it, it makes sense, because it's not natural that if I set foot in my house, I can tell which kids have come over to play with my kids, because they're somewhere else in the house. Maybe they're upstairs and I'm downstairs, but I can smell that smell on their clothing. That's a pretty strong, potent odor.
Yes. And then you have one here. Is it end of the show? That you gave me this link. Once upon a duck in
Well, you got to
the
talk about the
comments.
ducks. I mean, particularly.
Yes. Right. Okay.
So hit the no thanks, Liam, so that you can. I'm sorry. Next time I'll send you there you go.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. So this is for kids. It's an early intervention suicide prevention effort. It is free. I would love for it to spread. It is aimed at children who are somewhere between 3 or 4, all the way up to 8th grade or 9th grade, whenever they start losing interest in little rubber duckies. To be honest, I haven't found that age. When I meet high school kids, I ask them if they're still interested. They may not say they are, but they usually will say they have a younger sibling or a girlfriend or something like that, and they put their hand out for the ducks. So
it says morning musing on breakfast options with my bunny friend. Are you going to eat the bunny?
Well, no, it's the bunny was having clover. And so I'm talking to the kids
So
about how.
shall we listen? Shall we give it a
Yeah,
listen?
sure, why not?
All right.
That was just this morning, Liam. I went out for coffee and there's this bunny that hangs out with me.
All right, so I can say.
Come on, play. Do I have to go like this to have it play?
I don't know.
All right, so I can say a quick good morning to you. How's everybody today? It's Mrs. Moroto saying good morning, wishing all my fine young ducklings a very happy, I believe it's a Wednesday morning, and hoping that you can go make friends today too, just like I'm trying to make friends with the bunny. All right, now we're going to go around the bunny again. All right, bear with me while I swing the camera around. All right, there we go. All righty, now can I get a little bit closer? How will our bunny friend let me get is the question. Hi there. Do you want to come say good morning to the kids? Come say good morning. The kids are looking to make friends. Bunnies seem like a good friend. And you look like you were enjoying your breakfast. All right, so at that point, I'm going to turn the camera around again, and we're going to talk about breakfast. What's everybody having for breakfast? So if you're going to have breakfast, I'm going to ask you to either go into the kitchen or ask your grown-up parent, whoever you've got around that's in charge of feeding you today, if you can have something that's a little bit on the healthier side for breakfast this morning. Maybe you have a special treat that you've been looking forward to, and that is perfectly fine. But could you add something that is yummy and tasty and delicious, but also gives your body some of those nutrients that it needs? Fruit is great. Yogurt is great. Nuts are great. What else are good breakfast foods? Cheese is great. Ask your grown-ups what they have and say, Mrs. Moroto asked me to eat something that's a little bit healthy in addition to whatever was going to be for breakfast this morning. I don't know where you live, but it is June, and in Pennsylvania, we get excellent strawberries. Of course, we have to fight the animals because sometimes the squirrel or the groundhog or the bunny gets to them before us and they have teeth marks out of them. Can you believe it? How rude is that? But blueberries are delicious, blackberries. It is the berry time of year. So see if you have any berries around. If you don't, ask your grown up next time you go to the grocery store or wherever you get your food, could you get some berries and try them? Fresh are wonderful. Frozen are also really, really, really good. And if you're going to get them, ask your parents, could we try organic? If they're not more expensive, see if your parents would be willing to buy organic. And that just means that they aren't sprayed with some things to keep bugs off of them. And it's a little bit healthier for you if you can buy the organic stuff. So see if you can do that. Now let's go back and see if our bunny, how the bunny's doing with her breakfast. All right. Let's see. Have I got you in the frame? Yes, I do. And will you let us come closer because the kids want to meet you? So, would you let us get a little bit closer? Look at you. You are not bothered at all. I love the quiet in the morning. So the only things that I can hear right now are the birds, and I can hear an airplane going by overhead. And that's it. No loud lawnmowers, no loud trucks, just the kind of quiet Mrs. Moroto likes. And I bet some of you are bothered by loud noises. Uh-oh, I scared somebody away. All right, sorry. That was a little too much, wasn't it? Sometimes we have to go slowly and gently when we make new friends and not scare them away if they're timid. I see you. I see you. All right, it looks like the bunny is going to be heading into my neighbor's yard. It is entirely possible. Oh, there we go. It is entirely possible that in the backyard or over in my neighbor's yard, the clover is tastier. All right. So I believe we have said goodbye to our bunny friend, which means I'm going to say goodbye to you. And I'm going to ask you, as always, to make good choices, to be fine young ducklings, to spread lots of love and joy and laughter. If you get mad at somebody, that's okay. It happens to all of us. Later, can you go back and say, I'm sorry, I lost my temper? And can you make somebody laugh? Can you smile at somebody? If you're out and about, you're somewhere where you don't know the people, you're in a store or wherever, just smile. Grown-ups love that. You know how grumpy a lot of grown-ups are. So smile, and you're doing your part to make the world a better place. All right, I will come back to you soon as we continue to make friends with the bunny. Be good ducklings, make good choices. Have a great day. Bye.
Let's give a round of applause to the bunny. All right, that was outstanding. Very authentic, very natural, very. It was a very. You should have your own kids show.
That's what I'm trying to make it be. Essentially, I'm trying to make it be Mr. Rogers, only it's Mrs. Moroto instead. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. But I have
A beautiful day in the neighborhood.
That's
What's
right,
that?
exactly. But you taught me I can't sing because then I'll get dinged for the copyright stuff. So my original thought was to read some books, but my husband said that's going to get me dinged too. What do you think? If I read children's
I
stories?
think the books. I think in my experience, books and things of that nature are permissible. They just have some sort of algorithm that is tuned to music, and so even if you like sing, I found that sometimes you will get flagged, but you have to sing longer and you have to at least be somewhat on tune. Whereas if it's
So I'm going to be okay, is what you're saying, Liam.
I don't have a very good voice, but I found that if you're playing actual recorded music,
Right.
then it like within seconds understands it. But if you're singing like what the world needs now is love,
sweet.
sweet love, it takes a longer time for it to get in there and say, "Oh, that's a protected melody."
Right.
You know, can't have
Right.
that. You know, so it'll give you one of those. You know.
Exactly. Okay, then I'll give children's books a whirl because I kind of want to go to the older books because the new ones always have merch associated. And I don't like that we're breeding little consumers. So Winifred's really good. Like this morning, she went on that one that you just played and she put, as long as he doesn't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. And that, of course, is from Peter Rabbit, which people your and my age would know. And little people
Right.
probably don't. And I don't even know if their parents would know because if their mom or dad is 28, they may not have grown up with Peter Rabbit. So we'll see. I told them to, when they can't look it up. That's against the rules. They have to ask other humans. And I said, if your parents don't know, then you need to go older, go to the grandparents or the gray haired people. And then if they come up with the right answer, they get a prize. And I put a little picture of what their prize would be. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, and the other way to get around the kids' music copyright is to just write your own songs.
That is true.
write
I've heard that some of us might have better songwriting skills than others and might
Yeah.
write a song about the 10 tiny, tasty, whatever little toes.
Yes, that's
Am I doing it, Liam? Am I showing my toes? Here we go. There they are. Right? Ooh.
bravo. Let's give it up for the barefoot queen of
That's right.
health.
All right, Liam, speaking of our title, how did you get your title? What are you the unofficial king of?
What's that now?
How did you get your title? What are you the unofficial king of?
Oh, I got my title because I was so amused by the no kings thing.
Yep.
You know, they're like, no kings. Everybody's going on all hysterical. I was like, well, guess what? this is the unofficial king of LinkedIn Live. And so, you know, because there's nothing better when, as an artist, right, to get a reaction to what you do that is something like this. That is just, you hit the mark. To get somebody to be just like, you know, whether it's an affection of love or an affection of hate, at least you're not mediocre.
That's
and that's
right.
the worst thing you want to
Right.
be.
Well, what do they say, that there's no such thing as bad publicity. All publicity is good publicity, because it is publicity. So, Liam, what is it that you do? Like, why would somebody seek out the services of the king?
Well, because the reason you would seek out my services is so you could get the royal treatment and actually like come into this type of world here.
Unofficial king of LinkedIn Live. And on the replay ride, yeah. Hit that follow, keep that streak alive.
All right, and so basically that's kind of what I do. I attack the trust apocalypse with
How do you do that, Liam?
authenticity.
Do you go out with a gun? How do you attack it?
I create content that is fearless.
Okay.
And I create relationships with fearless individuals like yourself. You were on Fox TV not too long ago. Just took over the show, walked into the shot, brought the ducks. People, the cameraman was just like, "Oh my God!" The director was like, "She's in the shot."
We've got a duck lady on the premises.
They got the duck lady in the premises, and yeah, it was great. And, you know, you were completely at ease. There were kids there, so you're giving the kids a little
Maya. Yep.
They were truly enamored, and they really enjoyed the. I don't have that sort of understanding that I think you have and many moms do about what would animate,
little ones.
The little ones.
So your skill set is going to be more with adults, and the adult would come to you if they wanted to promote a business or if they wanted to.
Well, the world is allergic to AI slop, and it's allergic to funnels and marketing. And so what I do is I just propose strategies to build trust and to tell your story in an engaging and cinematic way, because like you just saw, that 20-minute promotional deal, that alone is just a total pain in the brain. But when combined with live television or live broadcasting and a foundation of authenticity, the marketing and the AI and the comedy or whatever it is that you're doing that's somewhat artificial then makes sense. Like, oh, well, this guy is just doing this cartoony stuff,
So you help people who are doing screenplays, but also people who might just be promoting their...
who want to leverage AI in the trust apocalypse. Right? So you want to take the benefits and leverage the benefits of the new golden age, right? You don't want to be left behind, but you want to be real and you want to be authentic and you want to tell your story. And so I help people tell their stories in a cinematic, engaging way. Well, just, keeping it real. Got to keep it real.
Got to keep it real. Well, I know you helped me tell my story. And for viewers or listeners, I'd never met Liam. And then within 4 or 5 days, I had this beautiful, polished 40-minute video of me just babbling my head off about my work and what I do. And he edited it and put it all together. He turned it around in no time. And if I had my act together enough to get back in touch with my web design person, it would be on the new website, but it isn't there yet. But that's on me. That's not on Liam.
And you see how her crown fell off? You
No,
see
the crown fell, right.
That was by design. Well, it's
That's
been
right.
like over 2 hours, and
Yeah,
we
it's probably time
appreciate
to wrap up the show.
our international.
And we definitely, I can't even remember her name, but Miss Bangladesh, she's sound asleep now.
Yeah, sound asleep.
Yeah.
And so, all right, everybody, thank you so
Yes.
much for watching. And
So everybody, you got to move it, and go get out
move
the
it.
sun.
That's right. Get out
Here
in the
comes
sun.
the sun. What's a sun song, Liam?
Here comes the sun, doo doo doo.
Do here comes the sun.
And I say, it's all right.
Bum, 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 bum. I'm losing it here. Losing steam.
All right, everyone.
All right. It was great.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
It was
Thank
great.
you, Liam.
Take care. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Au revoir.
Bye. Goodbye.